You did some stuff on Born Center for J. Cole.
Oh yeah, I did a lot of Born Center.
You did a lot of it. You got recommended from Drake. Drake is the one that is the wildest. I heard that and I was just like, Drake called and said, "Yo, call Ken."
No, that's not what Drake said.
Okay. How did that happen?
I've never met Drake, never been in the same room with him, worked on a couple albums of his.
Okay.
But I get a call. Okay, so I'll tell you how Drake got it. So Drake calls J. Cole and says, "Who did the choirs on Lord Knows?"
Uh-huh.
And J. Cole says, "Oh, Just Blaze did that." So they call Just Blaze, and Just Blaze says, "No, you got to call Ken Lewis."
Right.
So that's how I got that gig.
Okay.
So I'm sitting in my studio on a Saturday night, like 6 p.m., and I get a phone call. "Hello. Hey, J. Cole." I was like, okay.
Okay. Right.
So we get to talking, and I could hear him typing on his keyboard as he's starting to talk to me, and he's like, "You worked on Last Call? You worked on all Falls? You worked?" And he just started rattling off like a bunch of records that I did. I'm like, yep. He's like, "Can I come over tonight and play you my record?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir."
Sure can, buddy.
So it was just him and his driver stayed out on the street, and he got there about 10 p.m. and maybe stayed for 3-4 hours. And he played me his whole album in progress, which wasn't so far along, but it was, a conglomeration of pretty killer songs. And I remember him playing me the early version of Crooked Smile and just going like, "This is a fucking record."
Wow. Yeah.
It just you've heard it. It's just so
I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Wow.
So yeah, to get called on that. So I ended up producing on 9 songs on Born Center, 9 songs and skits. They weren't all songs. But all of the live choirs and live strings on Born Center I did. So I worked on She Knows and Crooked Smile, Born Center, and a few others.
Yeah.
Wow. Jeez Louise.
I actually have something in that vein. Between that Born Center, your numerous credits, the Kanye credits, Recovery with Eminem,
Recovery?
but was it Believe Me with Wayne and Drake, and then the fun stuff, Alicia Keys. You have this skill, and like you're drawn to like making these kind of like larger than life records and like soundscapes. What do you attribute it to outside of just the sample recreation that keeps you like on your feet in terms of creating these larger than life soundscapes?
Well, I bill myself as the weirdest resume in the entire industry.
Yes, you do.
And when you see it, you're just like, "Oh yeah, okay, that makes total sense."
Right.
And and it's really it was the Kanye effect that got me down all of those different lanes.
Yeah.
Or at least mostly the Kanye effect. But it's just been lucky. I just work nonstop.
Right.
And I can't even remember the original question you had.
He's like, he got lost in that whole thing.
Yeah, just like how do you just creating these larger than life records?
Yeah.
Like what do you attribute that to?
Well, sometimes I'm part of a much bigger team that's creating that whole soundscape.
Right,
so
for
I'm
sure.
just, a designated hitter. And sometimes I'm the producer and I'm creating everything. And so I've found my personal enjoyment in having different challenges every day. And like I just produced Taj Farron. He's a 15-year-old blues guitarist from Australia, which I had no interest in producing. He was 14 when I produced him. I was like, Australian blues guitarist? No. Don't. Nothing about that. 14, forget it. Right. And then I saw him play. I went to a show and I was like, oh, he's like Stevie Ray Vaughan at 14 years old. And I'm not exaggerating.
Right.
And I was like, I can do something with this. He had no songs.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's do an album together.
Right.
And I'd never produced a blues album.
Right.
I mean, I understand the format, but I was like, all right, challenge accepted, locked in.
Right.
And we hit #1 on the iTunes blues charts. I think when the vinyl drops, we'll hit #1 on the Billboard blues charts.
Wow, that's amazing. And he's from Australia.
Yeah.
Wow.
He lives in
That's
America
crazy.
now.
Lives in the States.
On that blues, that's so crazy that you landed on blues. My second question was going to be then, funny you mentioned blues. What was your contribution on Blacker the Berry?
The main drum loop.
Wow. That's insane.
He's like,
Which
that's
Black
the
of the
thing.
Bear?
Yeah,
Huh?
Which Black of the Bear?
Kendrick Lamar. To Pimp
You
a
did,
Butterfly.
yo. All right,
Yo, bro,
Mr. Lewis.
Bro,
Mr. Lewis.
I'm
wait.
telling you,
Real
I
talk.
kept going, and then I was like, all right, enough.